welcome to Tampon Talk with Mary. Welcome to the show that only airs once a month. Quick story. Y'all, it has been a crazy few weeks. I feel like it's been like emotionally draining and stressful. I want to talk about it eventually. It's been a lot to process. So this is a great place to just kind of have a really good interview and just have a good time and kind of take a little bit of a break, but still have it be, an open space to talk about menstruation and stuff like that. So that's why I'm really excited about this episode, is to just kind of have a little breath of fresh air, or a moment to kind of turn off from a lot of things that are making me upset and angry, and just kind of enjoy really amazing company and really amazing friends with this show. But you're here for the quick story. So it's been a wild time, folks. I was kind of trying to see which one I wanted to do. This most recent period, though, was very interesting. I can't remember if I've mentioned it on the show or not, but one of my jobs as an actor is I work for medical schools, and I work with medical students, and I play, teenagers or adults or students or whatever it is. And this most recent time, I was playing a teenager for a case, and they had to perform an abdomen exam. And I am so bloated. I am heavily menstruating, and I had everybody poking at my abdomen all day. It was very exhausting. Two thoughts went through my head. One of them being, oh my gosh, this hurts, and I have to act like it doesn't hurt because it doesn't, related to the person I was playing. And two, I was very worried that would they squish me hard enough that I would squirt blood at them and kind of be like a ketchup packet. I was really worried about that. Luckily, I didn't, but it hurt so bad. The woman who was playing my mom, who is a lovely friend, she was giving me painkillers and stuff throughout the day. So, shout out to her. We love her. But anyway, I am so excited for the episode that we have. So I've brought on this artist named Rachel, who's based in Milwaukee. She is a delight. She does really amazing work. We kind of get into it throughout the episode, but to give you listeners a context at home, she had reached out to me months ago, and I never saw the message. It was like an Instagram, and it was in the requests, and I just never opened it, and I didn't realize. It's kind of like when T-Pain did it, and he had all those messages from celebrities that I guess all these celebrities thought he was ignoring them. It was exactly like that. So I was feeling terrible. Luckily, she is so wonderful and so amazing that she came on and did this show anyway. But she's going to talk to us a little bit about her Rad Period Story series throughout this interview. And she also talks about where to buy her artwork and support her. We love supporting artists, as you know, on Tampon Talk. So make sure you check out the link in the description below to check out her Patreon, and you can get connected there. So without further ado, I want to kick it up to the interview.
Welcome to the podcast, Rachel. So excited to have you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We kind of already know what you do, but kind of, give us a little taste. What do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I am an illustrator, and I sell like illustrated things online, portraits. I do events. I teach drawing workshops, but I also have a very special series that I do called Rad Period Story, and that's where I highlight user submitted period stories that usually are very traumatic or wild. So that's something very near and dear to my heart that I do.
I love it. Yeah. And finding a way to share something that is traumatic, but also just bring a lot of like humor to it. I definitely resonate with you on that level.
Yeah, that's great. That's the goal. That is definitely the goal. I don't want to like re-traumatize anybody, but yeah, like making light of something while also, maybe having that human factor where we can kind of connect on similar instances where we've lived through something like that.
Sure. And kind of speaking on that, You've shared it on your Instagram, a story on your Instagram before. But on this podcast, we have a segment called Tampon Terror, where, kind of what your series does. Now, it can be a tampon terror. It could be a diva cup dilemma. It could be a pad problem. We don't discriminate in terms of product. But do you have a embarrassing period story or puberty related story that you'd like to share?
Sure. Wow. I feel like maybe this is why I started that series, because I have a lot of them. But when I first got my period, my parents were on vacation and it happened very unexpectedly. I wasn't anticipating it. I wasn't like on the cusp of like something's happening where I knew what to do or who to talk to. And anyway, I got it. And at the time it was like my brother was home and it was just me, and I didn't know. I felt so much shame around it, which was silly. And none of my friends had their periods yet because we weren't talking about it. So I kind of got it on the early side. And I thought it was poop. First of all, I was like, what's this dark stuff? I have no idea. It didn't look like blood to me. So that was perplexing. And I'm like, am I just like leaking poop into my underwear? This is weird. Okay, I guess I have to go to school and act like normal. And then I noticed the like physical stuff. So this is before I even ventured into tampon territory or pads, any of that. I didn't even know. And so I'm going to school and I just have wads of toilet paper in my underpants. And I noticed that I felt just different. Like my body felt different. And I went to the bathroom at home and I woke up on the floor, like with my head on the tile of the bathroom. I had fainted. I had been losing so much blood over days and not doing anything about it, not knowing how to like take care of myself or what to do. And that was like the final straw. And I eventually told my brother and told my aunt or my grandma, whoever was watching us at the time, and I got some pads. And pads felt like the safe place to start for me. I was like, this is all happening. I'm not ready to put something in there. Like, what is that going to be like? But I knew instantly that I wasn't a fan. I was like, I don't want this. Now I have to wear these like kind of diapery feeling things. And my period stayed for 2 weeks. It was a 2-week bleeder. And I thought, is this my life for the future? Is this what's happening to me? Luckily, no, that was just a terrible first period. But I feel like my like entire world changed after that. Like, just like, what, this is something everyone who bleeds has to deal with. And it still haunts me to this day.
It's like this secret uncomfortable club that you
yes
everybody goes through this like weird initiation process. Yours was maybe fainting on the floor as part of the initiation. I immediately got into also the place of your brother and then your aunt and your grandmother to be like, how would I explain what a period was and what was happening to this person that's never had one before, and tell them that this was normal. Yes, so lots of blood's coming out of you, but it's fine. Like, how do you,
totally. Like, I thought I was in a panic. I thought like, this is the end of the world for me. And then it was like, well, no, you better get used to this, because this will be every month for the rest of your life until you go into menopause, which, was very like, I don't even know what that is. And I feel like to this day, I'm still like, I guess I'll find out when I get there. A new initiation process will
That's
occur.
right.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. It's so fun. But I love also that it be like your brother is a part of the story too. I feel like that, I mean, also, which we'll sort of get into talking to, is with your series and being able to share these stories, is that the humor that comes out of it, the more important thing is that it's the destigmatization, and like that's what the humor is serving, which is like what I love about seeing your series, like the cascading like period falls and like just Also, I mean, just your art itself, like being able to destigmatize like butts, for example, which
Yeah.
is awesome and cute. And like, I guess for those who haven't seen it, just describing your like your style. I mean, I would love if you sort of describe it a little bit, because I would say like ink draw, but I'm not. It's not my
Sure.
forte. I
Yeah,
can't talk
no,
about.
yeah.
I, but yeah,
I
like
I always enjoy when people describe my work for me because I'm like, it's kind of like the artist. I don't know, I guess maybe some artists are really comfortable and like they have their little spiel, but I'm usually like, yeah, it's just simple line drawings, illustrations. Black and white is really my forte, usually with the period drawings. I have like a splash of red, of some shade of red,
hmm,
but I really like keeping things simple and succinct when I draw, but in an approachable way. So people are in on the joke, they understand what I'm trying to convey, and maybe there's a little humor or a little silliness or a little like raunchiness mixed in, but it feels like it's there to be enjoyed and not to go over your head or be really um what's the word, like not pompous, but
yeah, like
yeah.
I think which is funny that there's so many buts, is that I would just say like it's very cheeky, like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
and
like that. I like that word.
yeah. And then a pun came out of that, like wow, amazing.
Yeah.
But I that's something I really enjoy about it is I feel like we've have like Mad magazine was kind of the fun sort of like tongue-in-cheek like art that we had for a little bit. um and I like that it's not like Mad where it's just like a caricature, but I like that it's sort of exactly what you were saying, where it's not meant to be sort of lofty and like go over people's heads. Like it makes
Yeah.
the viewer feel like more included. um but sort of on that same vein, so you've started this amazing work as an artist, then you come along and you do the Rad Period Stories series. You've kind of like talked a little bit about it, but I'd love if you could kind of talk about like what inspired you to do it. How do
Hmm.
like I like how or just I'm talking too much. How how had what got you started on like the Rad Period series?
Sure. I think it all started with my own stories and my own complicated feelings with my period. For example, like there were some people I think that were told that periods were special and amazing and like to have a party and to like celebrate, and I didn't have that experience, but I really don't think I would have been cool with that experience. Not to say that
Mm,
that's a
mm.
bad thing and people shouldn't do that. Not at all. It's everyone's different, but for me, I don't view it in that way. It's more of like, yeah, these freakish stories that are haunting and wild and like survivor tales almost, that they don't feel like these like whimsical magically. It's like actually pain, actually like
Yeah.
really hard to get through at times and perplexing, like the internal stuff that happens, the external things that happen to you. And so after I had experienced different, gut wrenching, difficult periods, I thought, why? I've never really like talked about this with anyone. And I'm a pretty open person. And even with my closest friends, unless it was like the topic was brought up, but it hadn't. It's always in the shadows. And I really dislike that there's a lot of shame around periods and that periods are seen as disgusting or gross. I think,
Mm.
especially with certain groups of people who are like, ugh, never ever talk about your period. And that's, you're not you're not allowed to. You're like, kind of like the like women don't poop or like that sort of vibe. So
Yeah.
I thought, what if I am able to put this out in the world and let people tell me their stories, and then I can draw it and release it out and see what people's reactions are. And I was super shocked to see that the response was positive and that a lot of people said the same thing happened to me, and it would be like the wildest tale.
Mm, mm.
The most epic period explosion tale. And you're like, it just makes you realize that these things are all happening to all of us who bleed, and we haven't been able to freely talk about it. And so I think social media is just like one of those channels where it feels good to like release it and see what
Mm.
happens. And making like bonding with people through those stories is awesome, and making people feel safe enough to tell me these things too, about their bodies.
Yeah, like and that it's the camaraderie I think it brings is what I really liked about it, because there's exactly what you're saying, where someone will go, wait, what, that's happened to me too, like,
Yeah.
and I don't know if I'm always gonna have like the right answer to exactly what it is, but to be like, why have we been totally silent, and or not like totally silent, but just like, how have we not talked about this whole time?
Hmm.
And I also love that you kind of talked about, there's the two sides of it, where it's like totally not talking about it at all, and then people who are like, it's just amazing, beautiful, wonderful daisies and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the power of just dialogue, it helps, I think, to put the balance in there. um
For sure.
but I can't, I've never really quite figured it out, of just, is it just like a patriarchal thing that's like, which, maybe,
Yeah. Yeah.
but or is it like a generational thing, or is it, like, what
Sure.
exactly is
Right.
it?
Hmm.
But I love that your art kind of like breaks through a lot of that, of just, someone goes, oh yeah, me too. Because yeah, social media is like, is, whether people are ready for it to be or not, is a very like powerful tool. And to be able to use it for something like this is like, one of the best things in my mind to use it for.
Yeah, totally. And when I started this series, I didn't anticipate the response. So I thought it was like a one-off thing, like maybe I'll draw three. And then to have people DM or email, and or in the wild, if I'm like doing a seller event and people come up to me and they're like, I've got the wildest period story. And it's so cool. Like, people who don't know me will just seek me out to tell me their stories. And even just the storytelling piece of it, that is so interesting and so intimate, like to
Mm,
talk about people's personal bodily functions, even in, some of their scariest moments or most embarrassing times. It's super powerful. And
yeah.
I guess it's been really awesome to do that. And I'm glad that it continues on.
Mm, yeah. And I love also just people coming up and like doing that with you, because I feel like that for me, that's I am immediately trust that person, or I'm immediately like,
Yeah.
you're awesome.
Yeah, like breaks the wall a lot when that happens, because there's not like, wait, can I ask? Like, it's none of that. It's just straight into it. And that's great for me, because I'm that's my style. I like when people can just tell me what their story, or tell me about something that happened, and not worry about anything. Like, let's just be real for a minute here.
Yeah, and I'm always just ready to go to tell people I'm bleeding, so to just be able to do that back with them, just
Yeah, yeah, it feels
amazing.
so good when, yeah, totally.
And so you sort of kind of talked a little bit about it, but just some of the rewarding aspects of the
Yeah.
series. Um, so it's sort of in the opposite vein. Have you found any like challenges that have come with trying to do art about this particular topic?
Yeah, definitely. I One kind of like issue, but it's kind of like a good thing, but I get a lot of the same stories. So
Mm,
someone will reach out and it'll be like a mattress period explosion stain story. And even though it's a great story, I've already drawn it. So I feel bad in the sense that at this point, after hundreds of drawings, that I'm like, kind of like trying to look for new stories to tell, because visually it gets boring, at least with my style. Like if maybe different artists were doing different interpretations, but how many times can I draw that same thing? So I love it when people come to me and they maybe, just found out or just saw a few or one, and then they tell me their story. But then when it's already been done, I'm like, oh, bummer. But I can at least direct them to that story so they can feel like, oh, okay, like this has happened before, obviously millions of times to different people, but that's kind of a unique new problem where there's just some repeats. But yeah, I think keeping the momentum up, like it would be great to get stories, more like menopause stories. Even that's something that, even though it's a rad period story, menopause is something that I'm very curious about, and I haven't drawn any stories like that. And maybe it's a generational thing or an audience thing. I'm curious to like start that a little bit, because that's another very like abstract idea that I think a lot of people are like, I think there's dryness, I think there's this that happens, I don't know, but there's not a lot of concrete things out there, or people telling their stories, because as we know, as like women age, oftentimes that their voice becomes more silent, or nobody wants to hear about it. So that would be, I put like a few calls out there to get stories like that. So it'd be cool to kind of include some of that. But yeah, I think variety, just getting some variety in there is the goal.
Which I love, like I feel like it's even a good problem then, because my first response is to be like, someone's gonna go in the comments and be mad that someone's talking about periods, but the problem is like, oh yeah, there's just a lot of the same story, which is what a great problem to have, I think. I mean, I guess
totally.
Like, yeah, socially a lot of good problem to have for you, trying to make more work of it. Maybe not so much, but that's and hey, listen, I've got so many stories. And even like weird ones at the beginning of every single Tampon Talk episode. Go buck wild. Any
that's true. I can pull from there. I should.
I've pulled out tampons on trains. I've bled into wedding dresses that I did not own. I was like, I'll have the really specific ones for you.
That's great. This is good. This is a good place to start. Yeah.
And there might be at least two guests I've had on, I think, have talked about menopause at some point. So there's got to be two buried in there.
Yeah.
That I can definitely find for you. If you're in the market.
Yeah, definitely. It's like whether or not I'm actively working on it, or it's like the back burner when I get freelance work done or other things. I'm like, I love having a list, and or like emails tagged rad period story that I can kind of go into and be like, now's the time. I'm gonna crank out five new stories. So
absolutely. And then, so speaking of, like, how do, if someone who is listening wanted to submit a rad period story, how do they do it?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Rad Illustrates, and you can slide into my DMs if that feels right. You can also hit me up on my email, which is, wow, I was like, which email should I use? I just totally brain farted, or brain perioded. I don't know. That was
keeping it on brand. That was good.
radillustrates@gmail.com. That's another option. Just shoot me an email, write out your story, or send me a DM, and I'll start the combo.
Now, where can we support your art? You mentioned your Instagram. What are other ways that we can support you and your work?
Absolutely. So I have a website where I sell, like an online store where I sell all sorts of portraits, illustrated merch, I also have a Patreon, and I even on my Patreon I have a period club, which is basically, I think it's $2 or $3 a month, and you can support my period series. It's kind of like sending that in. It helps keep me going and focusing on that, and it's just an awesome way to get involved and keep an artist working on fun series or series that connect with other people and not necessarily like paid client work.
And that was Rachel. Wasn't it? Was so fun. You could tell how tired I am in this interview, but she is a delight. Super sweet, very down to earth. Make sure that you check out the links in the description below so that you can support her and her artwork and kind of keep following her. Her Instagram is awesome, so you should definitely follow her there. And submit your rad period stories. The information is also attached below if you want to DM, like she said, or you can even do it through email. And you can go from there. If you've got very wild stories, especially, you should get that animated. But what's the takeaway? Well, I think the takeaway is that a subject like menstruation or a natural functioning sort of part of ourselves should not be a stigmatized thing. That's, it's an oldie but a goodie around here to, kind of hit on that theme. But I feel like this is really true here. Being able to tell these amazing stories through menstruation art is a really powerful way to just, bring one light to talking about this discussion, and more importantly, educating and destigmatizing and letting people know that you might be not the only person going through this particular experience. Many people have this experience, so I think that's a really cool thing about this art series. Yes, indeed. So, yeah, I think that's the spiel. But you know how it is here on Tampon Talk. I hope that you've enjoyed this interview. I hope that you go on to do amazing, amazing things and be inspired to submit your rad period stories. You know how it is on Tampon Talk. If you have any questions for Rachel or myself, you can email us at tampontalkwithmary@gmail.com. If you just want to, shoot me a hi, hello, write me an email, send me some cool pics, you can also email me there. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We're Tampon Talk W Mary on both. You can also just follow my personal account on Twitter. It's kind of used a little bit more on there. It's Periods Talk if you want to follow us on that. But yeah, go on into that world and, do your thing. It's going to be okay. Just keep on bleeding. You're doing all right. And, you've always got a home here on Tampon Talk with Mary. But we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.